This is Warren Vanderhoe with the Center for Middletown Studies Project on Muncie's Faith Communities. The date is June 15th, 2017, and today I'm speaking with the Reverend Vickie Perkins, the lead pastor of the Gardens of Gethsemane United Methodist Church. I want to begin with, I guess, the question that one might expect one to begin with, and that is, I want you to tell me about your personal faith journey. How you get from, as I happen to know from previous conversations, West Virginia to Gardens of Gethsemane.
Right. I grew up in Virginia, okay, and I grew up in an alcoholic home. So my dad was an alcoholic, and when I was 10 years old, my dad had an experience with Jesus Christ, and I saw a transformation in a man. I saw what it was like. I once was lost, but now I'm found. So I'm 10 years old. It had a profound impact on me. From that time, I lost way. I went different directions and not really seeking God in my own personal life. Married at 18 years old, divorced at 19 years old, and decided to go to college.
West Virginia?
Yeah, in Virginia.
Oh, Virginia, okay.
Decided to go to college and study music. So I went to college and studied music. I got my degree, and while I was in college, had another experience with Christ in college, and ended up marrying a Southern Baptist preacher at the time, and went to Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, good, yeah.
And stayed there.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to a little college called Bluefield College in the mountains of Bluefield, that area. And then felt that God was calling me to preach. I never prayed to him. I've been on stage all of my life. My sister and I were country music singers as I was growing up. I never prayed. I never read the Bible. But I was smart enough to know how to do and get through college and through seminary. So I did. I went through the ordination process through the United Methodist Church, and became a full ordained, the highest that you could go in the United Methodist Church as an elder. And in 1997, my dad died, and my whole world caved completely in. And I went over to the church that I was serving, and I said, if you're real, let the cross fall on me. There was a cross right in the middle of the sanctuary. And I heard him say, get up. From that moment to this moment, where we're sitting here, I get up every morning and go away with him. I took down all my degrees off the wall, and I began a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And so what drives me is his voice. I've heard him speak. And I remember when I got up, I was by myself, and I said, here I am, an ordained clergy, and I said, oh my God, you're real. And from that moment to the moment I'm here, that's what I know of a personal relationship. I don't know a religion, I know a relationship. So that's my story of how I...
What other churches did you serve before you came here?
I'm into almost my 30th year, so I served a 3-point charge, so I was a circuit rider. I was a circuit rider. I had a 1970 or 1984 Fiero, and I was a circuit rider between these little churches. And then I served at Scipio, a little church. Then I moved to Hanover and served there for 15 years. Okay. And then came here in 2010.
Okay. So you get into the state of Indiana by going to Hanover.
That's correct.
Indiana.
Yeah, that's right. Serving churches, yeah.
What intrigued you about this possibility, this church?
Nothing.
Okay.
I came here on a very, very cold February night. And there was 3 separate buildings here on this campus. The church had been in decline for 15 years. One of the first questions I was asked was, am I going to use the Bible to preach from? I thought that was an interesting question for me. Very interesting. They took me into the old building that was sitting here. It smelled so horrible you wouldn't want even your dog to walk in. The smell of the mildew, the musty smell kind of thing, you know. And to tell you the truth, brother, I just said, God, what did I do wrong to get appointed here? And my district superintendent took us over to a restaurant called Amazing Joe's. And he said, I said, you know, Dale, who was Dale Mendenhall, who was at High Street. And I said, Dale, I don't know about these. He said, well, Vickie, you got to give an answer, and we'll wait for you inside. We set out. ice and snow, and I looked on the side of the building and it said, the answer is yes. That's how I got here.
How much, this is a governance question, how much do district superintendents have in directing pastors in the United Methodist Church?
Our district superintendents and our bishops deeply pray and seek God's direction, okay? And so what they look for is it good for the pastor, is it good for the church?
Okay.
And then the Holy Spirit's direction in appointments.
Okay. What do you see as your main responsibilities here?
I want to take as many people to heaven as I possibly can.
Okay.
And my main thing, if you can tell me what he said to you this morning, then I know you'll never be the same.
Okay.
That's my main
Yeah.
job. Because you'll be transformed.
Yeah.
And you'll hear him speak. And so how do I do that? How do I
Articulate that.
yes,
Yeah.
articulate that.
Yeah.
That's a good.
How would you characterize the condition of this church now?
We are a healthy church because we have surrounded ourselves, and our focus, and it drives us, is the vision of the church.
Okay.
The vision drives us. It drives everything. It drives the governing board. It drives the staff. It drives everything we do. And everything else that falls outside of the vision is abandoned. So this church was visionless for 40 years.
Okay.
No vision for 40 years. Last vision was in a time in the 1970s was the last vision of the church.
How would you describe the vision?
The vision is the journey, moving toward a Christ-centered life.
Okay.
It's the vision is not a judgment, it's a journey. And so we have 4 stages, and anyone who comes to the garden can find themselves on those stages. And our job is to help you move toward a Christ-centered life. We call this the Jordan.
Oh.
This is the Jordan here, right in the middle of the thing.
Yeah.
And so we know that if you'll cross over, then you'll hear his voice.
Okay. As you're well aware, recent research has shown that there are a lot of churches that have had great difficulty
Yes, sir.
attracting and keeping members. What you're telling me then is that was the case here for a long time.
Yes.
I mean, even though you've not been here that long, are there reasons why this church lost memberships? I mean, kind of things that happened to them to lead to Gethsemane's decline?
No vision.
Okay.
Without a vision, you'll perish.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a vision, then you turn what? Inwardly. The visions are always, we're inwardly strong for an outward focus. And so if you don't have a vision, then you'll just be turned inward. The vision is what makes the cross. That's what makes the cross. It's the inward, it's the vision that gets us out. So yeah, it's all vision. That's all it is.
Aside from membership, what are the main challenges that a church like this faces today in the modern Muncie of 2017?
Main challenges.
Well, I mean, I'll give you a little bit
Think
of a
about
prompt
that.
on it because
Okay,
I know
please.
enough about what you're doing.
Yeah, thank
But
you.
let me start with something else. What was the reason for changing from Gethsemane United Methodist Church to the Gardens of
Right.
Gethsemane?
Yeah. Okay. I know this is going to sound, but so I'm standing in an office one day, and the Lord spoke to me and said, "It will be called the Garden."
Singular.
All right.
Singular at that
The
time.
Garden.
Okay.
And I remember some people were saying, "Well, we need to do a study. Let's do a study. Let's do a study.
Let's have a committee.
Let's have a committee and let's do a study and let's ask everybody around, okay, what you should go." I do think it's interesting, though, across the street at the tire barn over here, when we did go into the community and ask, "What do you know about this church?" And one of the ladies over here that was working at the tire barn, she said, "Well, we call that the Gitchy Goomy Church because they couldn't say Gethsemane."
Oh, okay.
And so the really cool part of that is when we changed the name, I had a sermon and I said, "Please, how many people here can say Gethsemane?" Now that was almost everybody. How many people can spell it? Well, I lost about 80% of people.
Yeah. It's
And
tricky.
then when I asked the question, "What does it mean?" Not one person was able to tell us the meaning of the word. Words are important,
Really? You mean the importance of the garden and what that really played in
Gethsemane.
Christ's life?
They did not know the name. They didn't know the meaning of the word Gethsemane. They knew that part. They don't know what Gethsemane means.
Yeah.
Gethsemane means to be hard pressed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was, this was a process of change. I mean, everything from the name to there's not a pulpit up there, as you see, and the pulpit now is the cross, and it was just and everything was based on the 1954 founding of this church. So we went back and we found out what was the vision in 1954. What is the foundation? And we found out that we're sitting on, you'll love it, we're sitting on a garden. It was a garden.
Well, I mean, to come to church here, by contrast, say, with, High Street or a lot of Methodist churches I've been in my life, is a very different worship experience. And I'm making the assumption that that's by design, that you did that for reasons. So you have a song leader, and going back to the point about the Gaitherization of what you do in your first service on Sunday morning, why did you decide to go in that direction?
Yeah. We're not a church that's looking for senior adults. We're not looking for millennials. We're not looking for Gen X. We're looking for any souls. We don't see, I don't see anything in the scriptures that tell me that I need to reach out only to a generation. Okay. So knowing that, we tried to put all those combinations of the generations together, which created a Gaither kind of service. Doesn't mean we don't have other kinds, but yeah.
Well, because what I find in all these churches I visited, and even with First Presbyterian where I attend, they've got these kind of stylized approaches where you have a praise service, then you have a traditional service. And now High Street's got three, where you got something I gather that's sandwiched in the middle between the contemporary and the traditional. Here, it seems like you've placed more reliance on trying to blend a lot of these elements into a single service.
Right, it's true. And the Main Street Church is completely different.
Okay.
Completely different. And so what we've tried also is that we really want to, if you want the answer to the question is we want to reflect the community.
Okay.
This service needs to reflect the community. That's why this service doesn't look like Starbucks.
Right.
Because the people that live right here don't look like Starbucks. They get their coffee from McDonald's.
Right.
Okay? So we want to look like our neighborhood. Okay, and so the service reflects the neighborhood.
Okay. And so one of the things you've done then is to focus on outreach. I'll get to Main Street in a minute.
Sure.
Focus into outreach in this community that surrounds this church.
Right. We've done a lot of studies on so we're sitting in here, what's going on out there? So we know that on a Sunday morning that 18% of people in a 2-mile radius of where we're sitting are churched. Okay. 18% are churched. Yeah. But we have 45% in this 2-mile radius that say that they're spiritual.
Okay.
So we've really tried to find out, and we're also in the 2-mile radius. We live in the working poor. That's where we live. We live in the working poor.
Yeah. By contrast, say, with the plight of a place like Holy Trinity Lutheran, where a young pastor comes and finds he's surrounded by Ball State rental properties.
Correct.
So you're not surrounded by Ball State rental properties. You're surrounded by what is an area that's become Muncie working poor.
So this is my mission field, our mission field. So our mission field here looks completely different than our mission field at Main Street and Normal City.
Yeah.
So what works here, is going to look different in each one of those, because if you're reflecting your community.
Well, this gets to where we're going anyway.
Okay, sure.
What role do you see for Gardens of Gethsemane in the larger Muncie community? That's a prompt.
Yeah,
for why you decided to go downtown.
Yeah. I go away with him every morning. I've been doing that for 20 years since I heard his voice, and I was driving down Kilgore, and the Lord said, I'll take you someplace. So I'm just driving, and I hear him say, turn here, turn there. I found myself going a one-way street on Main. I didn't know Main Street was, the wrong way. I didn't know I was going the wrong
I've
direction.
done that.
I thought it was and I got on, thank God, nobody was coming at the time. And he said, turn here, and I turned. And I sat there for 3 months in the car, and after 3 months, he said, get out. I got out, he took me to the door, and he said, you'll open the door. That's how we got there.
How long ago was that?
There was an article in the newspaper about 3 years ago, maybe 4, that was about, on Easter Sunday, about the Main Street Church. It said a gem that's dying. And so that was probably about 4 years, because right at that time, a man here, Stan, came to me and said, the Lord told me to give you this article. I read the article and I put it on my refrigerator. So it's about 4 years ago. Described
Was that just a boarded up church? Was there anything there?
They had 11 people.
11 people?
11 people. They've been serving with, they had not had a child in the church for 25 years, no children for 25 years. And they've had 11 people left.
Who pastored the
faithful.
church?
Robert Hunt, pastored there for 15 years, and now he is on my staff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So 11 years.
Okay.
I mean,
so,
11 children.
well,
11
here,
people.
Here, go to the governance structure of the United
Yeah.
Methodist Church again.
Yeah.
So here's this church in downtown Muncie,
Yeah.
obviously fallen on really hard times.
Yes.
11
Yeah.
people,
11
part-time
people.
pastor.
Right.
Then how does this work in the
Right.
governance standpoint with the United Methodist Church? I mean, what,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to do this, how do you do it?
Yeah, right. So it was a long process.
Okay.
Really long process. So we had to get permission to even begin exploring what would that look like, to the church. The church was literally 2 months from closing the doors because of
that's what I thought.
finances. Yeah. So, and then this church had to be on board. So it was a year process before we had a congregational vote to adopt Main Street.
Okay, so adoption is the phrase.
Adoption is the
word.
phrase. That's right. We adopted Main Street. Correct. Right.
So I want you tell me a little bit about Pastor Vickie telling that's a bad word, explaining to the congregation why this is a good thing.
It was hard.
I'm sure it was, but how'd you do it?
It was really hard. I mean, it's because here's the mentality.
Yeah.
Well, Reverend Vickie, we don't have these filled. Why are we going down there?
Right.
Why don't we get this filled up first, and then we'll go down there? So it's very, and also in Muncie, the White River has been seen as the
Dividing
line,
line, yes.
the dividing line.
Yeah.
And so what I said, we got to cross the Jordan.
Okay.
Okay, we got to cross the Jordan.
Yeah.
And so it was very difficult, sir. I mean, very difficult here, because you have a mentality that's been inwardly focused with all the things that we do that are good. They're good things, right?
Yeah, sure.
The good things, And so you're going to go down, and we're going to meet with homeless people and people that have drug addicts and prostitutes, and we're going to do what down there? And I mean, I had one person here, very kind man, looked at me and he said, "You're going to get shot down there." I said, "Well,
People do.
People do,
Yeah.
and I'd rather be shot in his will than living outside of his will, and I mean that. Yeah. In fact, if I feel more safe there than I do here, in where we're sitting in Muncie. If you want to know the truth.
So would it be fair to say that the initial reaction of the congregation here was that that's not such a good idea?
Absolutely.
Okay.
that's very fair to say.
Okay. So it was a gradual process of trying to win them over.
Yeah, I went to every. I try to do. I don't lead by title.
Okay.
I lead by influence, and so influence is a whole lot longer and profitable. Because leadership is all influence. That's all it is anyway.
Yeah.
And titles mean nothing. So I took about 6 months and did conversations like this. Tell me your fears. What's going on?
Okay.
What are your things? What are you thinking? And then sharing with them the story of how we got there and the vision.
So on a given Sunday, how many people are there?
Right now, we'll be celebrating our second year in July, and we run 83 now.
Yeah.
And then we have anywhere from 15 to 20 children on top of that. So over 100 in the worship service with the children.
Right.
And then we feed about anywhere from 100 20 to 140 people every week.
After the service?
Before the service.
Before the service, okay.
At 12 o'clock, yeah.
Okay.
And the whole, it's a tool, the feeding. We are not here to feed. We do not believe that's the mission of the church.
Okay.
It's a tool that's used for the gospel.
Okay. So the meal precedes the
Correct.
the Sunday service.
The service.
Okay.
And it's across the street. So we
Yeah.
have a fellowship hall, and then we have
Okay.
the building.
What's the condition of the building?
The precious leaven, they did a really good job. They kept it in. There are areas we cannot use because it's not in good, so that's one of the
Okay.
things that we need to preserve the vessel for the
Okay.
future.
Okay. And you said the population is primarily homeless people?
We have, and it's, we're in the Washington, East Washington neighborhood, so
Yeah,
you've got
sure.
those gorgeous, beautiful
I know.
homes on Washington Street, which we can see from, so we have a combination of people we have educators, we have homeless, we have, it's just a really variety of people. We also have quite a few people on addictions,
Okay.
drug addictions, and especially heroin.
Yeah.
And what we found was that we needed them. I don't know if we've done anything for them at all.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've done anything for them, but I know what they've done for me.
Yeah.
So that's why
And-
Jesus
and-
said the poor will be with you.
Yeah. And
'Cause we
maybe
need
for
them.
this congregation.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm preaching.
Well, I mean,
for-
people I
yeah,
talk to here,
that's
I mean,
right.
they think they now are at the point where they think it's a good thing
It is.
in
right.
terms of outreach into the community.
That's right. It took
Yeah.
time, but they do. Yeah, and bless her, it wasn't, it's not mean-spirited, it's just we don't understand. We've just never done it before.
Yeah, right.
Why would we be doing that, Reverend Vickie? We don't understand. And that's okay. We
Okay.
just can't stay there. That's
Yeah.
all. I mean, it's okay, but we can't stay there. So we are a healthy church because of the
Yeah.
vision and a governing board that will say, we'll do whatever it takes.
Okay. What time is the Sunday service?
Here?
No, I've
There?
been here. No, I haven't been
Yeah,
there.
Yeah, 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, okay.
1 o'clock.
All right, now, fast
sir.
forward. and
Okay.
This is not too many people are all that aware of this outside of your own congregation. Give me the backdrop on going over to Jackson Street.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So we have a wonderful youth leader here named Lisa Blaylock and her husband.
Oh, yeah,
And they were
yeah.
doing prayer walking.
Yeah.
And there is in the Normal City Church,
Yep.
the United Methodist Church, they had 4 people left in the Normal
4
City.
people were in that
4
church
people in
across
the
from where I
church.
get gas?
Where you
Yeah.
get gas, 4 people.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so 4 people, and so really their vision was to not have the building closed.
Okay.
And of course that's inwardly.
Yeah.
Focus.
Yeah.
So the vision for that community is that our congregation are the guys playing cornhole out drinking beer and playing cornhole.
Yeah.
That's what congregation. Love them.
Wow.
Can't wait.
So with 4
I
people,
love it.
actually, was somebody actually pastoring the 4?
That was one of them was the pastor and his wife. So the pastor and his wife, and then 2 others was the pastor. Yeah, and then on a good Sunday they would have 6. So
6?
yeah, 6 people. Yeah,
Okay,
4 people.
so why does the United
were
Methodist
faithful.
Church let that
Yeah.
go on like
Yeah,
that?
that's
You would think they'd close it down.
the way I look at that one. What we may see as something that's not productive,
Mhm.
I think God sees something different.
Okay.
And so what I see in the Main Street people and in the Normal City people, for what they had been given by God, they were faithful
Okay.
to what they knew
Yeah.
and what they saw. And because of their faithfulness, now these places of worship are being transformed by the power of God. And so while it seems unfruitful in some ways, and I get that, but I truly, after talking to these people, that they were following Christ. And so while we might see something of where it is, but sometimes God works in ways that we don't
Yeah.
understand. Most time it does.
Yeah.
We can't put our hands on it or figure it.
Well, here's my weird but tough question. Why Gardens of Gethsemane going there rather than the Methodist church that's 4 blocks away?
So why would the people
No,
go
I'm
there,
talking about
or-
why wouldn't College Avenue go in there and do what you're doing rather than you going all the way to the other side of town?
Yeah. All I know is what God told me to do.
Okay.
I don't know.
But you're part of a large organization,
Sure, yeah.
which is the United Methodist Church.
Exactly.
And I guess what
right.
baffles me a little bit
Right.
is here is Gardens of Gethsemane. They're going to Main Street. They're going over on Jackson. 3 or 4 blocks away is the College Avenue United Methodist
Right,
Church.
yeah, yeah.
And when people first started telling me you were going to do this,
Right.
my first reaction was, well, that's a little strange. I mean, is there no territoriality involved in the church? I mean, I would
Right.
think that
Yeah.
the
That's a good
pastor and the
question.
congregation at
Yeah,
College Avenue
yeah.
would be going
Yeah.
across the street
Yeah.
rather than
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
on McGalliard
Right.
going over there.
Right. I think that's why Jesus went in regions. He would go to he'd go to Galilee. He
Yeah,
would go to this
yeah.
region. You know, he
Yeah.
really would. And here's what I know, brother: there are enough lost people for all, and so the Holy Spirit moves
Yeah.
in different ways, in different directions. And you're right. We are a connectional church.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So the College Avenue Church knows about this and have been praying for us and are excited. So, and that's how I would be with the United Methodist Church. I mean, seriously.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I
you know,
agree,
we operate. We're not territorial.
Right.
Yeah, because what does that get you? I mean, nothing. And here I know. I mean, I've got people across the street right here, and you know, if when I have a new person who comes to the garden, my job is not to get them into this church. My job is to help them hear the Holy Spirit, to help them to where you need to be.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's a good question, because you question that, but we're not. We don't have that kind of competition or territorial stuff.
Okay.
At least in my experience. Yeah,
And this begins in August.
it does.
Is the focal point of what you plan to do there student-oriented?
Yes, absolutely. It's our community.
Oh, okay.
It's all about the community. What does the community look like? Yes, and for the most part, not all, but mostly it's all BSU rental in that
Yeah,
area.
that's
Yes,
what
yeah.
it sure is.
And it's also a different
Yeah.
kind of ministry. It's called, we'll be doing multiplication ministry there, which is very different than a traditional worship service.
Okay. How?
Yeah.
In what way?
So we're praying for 12 people
Okay.
for the first year.
Okay.
And then the 12 to make 12 to make 12. And in a
Okay.
4-year process to move people toward a Christ-centered life, so that when you're a senior, that you'll be teaching
Okay.
the 12.
Yeah.
Multiplication.
How do you finance these initiatives? I'm a pastor's kid. You know, I mean, I grew up with my
I didn't
dad-
know that. Your
Yeah, my
dad,
father had a large church in New York City.
I did not know your daddy
Yeah,
was
Dutch
a preacher.
Reform, part of the collegiate system.
Presbyterian? No?
Yeah,
Yes, Presbyterian.
Dutch
Okay.
part of
Oh, cool.
Calvinism.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Reformed Church in
Okay.
America.
I love
and
it.
it's the collegiate churches and a bunch of other
You
ones,
know
but-
all this stuff.
Yeah, I do. I lived it.
You lived
And then
it.
I went to an Episcopal prep school, so I lived it on the Anglican side. So
I hear you. I
got a
didn't know
double
that,
whammy, and
brother.
then went to Hope College, which is Reformed Church in America. So
Yes.
I've been around this my entire life.
Yes, you have.
So when these things happen, obviously, given my background, you say, well, you know, how are they going to do this from a financial standpoint?
Right.
I mean, this is not exactly a garden of abundance when it comes to finances. And so now you're doing an outreach program down on Main Street. You're
Right.
developing a second outreach program over on Jackson. I mean, there's got to be something built into the budgetary process to enable you to do that. Faith. Yeah. God will provide. Yeah.
We just know that if
I know.
we get you across the Jordan,
I don't disagree with you.
I mean,
I think
that's really it.
yeah, the symbolism of it, I think, is really
Yeah,
really good.
I know that if you cross the Jordan,
Yeah.
you can't rob God.
Yeah.
And if you're on this side of the Jordan, you can rob God. But if you can't call him friend and rob him.
Right.
If you're my friend, you can't rob me and call me friend. And so if you're here, then I know that you won't rob him. And the abundance, I talk about resources, we have abundance of resources.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not about, it is all about relationship.
Yeah, it's how you direct them.
If you have a religion,
Yeah.
I won't have a dime. But if you have a relationship, we'll have more. And so, you know, and the other part of that is the United Methodist Church. We have been given a grant. We have received
Oh,
a
okay.
grant for Main Street, which
Okay.
was very helpful.
Yeah.
And that's when our connectional system, where we pay our apportionments
Right,
that
right.
go to other church starts.
Right.
So we are a multi-site church.
Yeah. Well, you talked about having to spend a year with a lot of personal relationships in this to initially go from here to Main Street.
That's true.
Once you'd done that, was the process easier to go over to Jackson?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and since it's a different, we're not actually adopting the building, and that we are actually just using that building through United Methodist Church.
Yeah.
So that was, but it was much easier. Well, and now it was like, well, where are we going to go next?
That was my next question.
Yeah, where are we going next?
Given the number of, well, it's funny because Andrew Draper is a good friend of mine.
Love
fellow
Andrew
at Urban Light.
Draper.
And so
Yeah, I
I
love him.
told him I was coming out to talk to you today.
Yeah.
And I said, I wonder where their Imperial Reach will go next. Because I didn't know until I went out to Urban Light that was once a Methodist church.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
Because,
That's
well, you know,
right.
the Methodists are the Methodists in the Midwest, and the churches are sprinkled all over the
Yeah,
place.
and that's what's so wonderful, that we have a denomination that also wants to do kingdom work, and they were able to give that building for kingdom work downtown.
Back to the reality of Muncie. In the last few
Yeah.
decades, as you're well aware,
Yes, sir.
this community has experienced what I would call considerable economic and social change, job losses, economic dislocation, and things like that. So my question is, can you give me, I don't want any names here, but
Sure.
give me some specific examples of how that kind of economic dislocation and job loss may have affected this
Oh,
congregation?
yeah. And I think it affected everything in this congregation for the last 40 years. I mean, you know, just, so we have that, but you have this, you know, this loss of hope.
Oh, all right.
If I saw anything, it was like, you know, Muncie was a town of hope, and, you know, you could come here and get a good job, and you could raise your family here and do well. And so it was, so that absolutely spilled over into the church.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's this loss of hope. You know,
So there are people in the congregation that either lost jobs.
Oh,
or
yes.
The thing we've run
Yes.
onto in the last couple of months in interviewing pastors is that a lot of people in this town don't realize how much carving out of middle management there was. And these people didn't lose their jobs, they got transferred someplace else. But it took a leadership group out of churches, it took a financial commitment out of churches.
Interesting.
So you think
Okay.
of, well, Harry lost his job and Susie
Yep.
lost his job, and they once had a good UAW job, now they're working at McDonald's or something like that.
Right.
But what about the people who were in a lot of leadership positions in especially mainline churches, and they just got transferred? They just
That's
sort of
right.
disappeared, whether with Ball Corporation or Warner
Right.
Gear or Delco or any of these large corporations in town. They just were gone.
Yeah.
Now,
I
they
hear
weren't
you.
gone in the sense of they lost their economic underpinning of their lives. They just were doing it someplace else.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
I
I
never
guess-
heard that before, but that's
Yeah,
interesting.
I think that's probably affected Gethsemane as much as any other church. But to go back to the main point, so that there really have been people in the congregation who have suffered economic
Oh, yes.
decline.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got, and we had, you know, remember in the peak of numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, so this church is about 780 people
Right.
on a weekend.
Yeah.
You know, and so absolutely, and leadership. Absolutely,
Right, yeah.
in losing of leadership, you know.
Yeah.
So, so a lot of it spilled extremely over to the church of this. And what does it cause us to do? It causes us to what? To go inward.
Yeah, right.
Because outside it's falling apart, right? Company after company after company
Right.
is leaving whatever is happening to my life, and so I just start to go in. And what's happening out here is I don't want to see the heroin addicts. I don't want to see the hopelessness. I don't want to, you know, because that's
Yeah.
not what it was in 1950 or 1960. That wasn't the main focus. But the church, this church, was founded upon they had a 20. They called themselves a 24-hour church, and we're out in the community. The founding pastor of this church literally rode in the police cars in 1954 and 1955, praying with people on the streets, which was Bishop Duker was
Yeah.
the founder here. So they have a history of that, but when you have 40 years of wilderness, you forget. That's why the Lord says, remember the Lord your God. They had forgotten who they were.
When we talked about doing the interview, you mentioned that there were also a number of programs, and this is not going to Main Street, going to Jackson Street, but I'm talking now about programs
Okay.
that you're involved with reaching out into the community. I wonder if you could talk a little
Yeah.
about some of those.
We have something called the Good News Clubs, which we are involved. We have adopted 2 schools. So we have adopted the Northview School,
Okay.
and we have it's an after-school program teaching the gospel. We also at East Washington Academy with the Good News Clubs.
Right.
So that's one outreach. At the Northview School also, we do some tutoring at Northview School. And we, as clergy and some others, our prayer group, we go have prayer with the teachers every Wednesday. We sit with the teachers.
Can you do that? Those are public schools.
Yeah, they, the teachers can.
Okay.
And the teachers can.
Doing these kind of things with the students.
Right. With the after-school program, the Good News Clubs, is seen as a club activity.
Oh, okay.
So it's no more than any kind of club activity, and it is an extracurriculum after-school thing.
So
that you have
providing it, and if
right,
kids
and you
want to come,
choose
they can
right.
come.
Now the teachers, they have their own teachers' time, and if you're invited, but if you don't want to, you don't have to.
Oh, okay.
So we do that. We also have Brianna's Hope, which you are familiar with,
Yeah.
and it's just we're seeing lives transform. On Tuesday nights, we have it's a drug addiction, basically drug addiction program.
Yeah.
We also have Celebrate Recovery here on Friday nights, which is for hang-ups, habits, and hurts. Anyone to come to that for healing, emotionally, mentally, physically. We also partnered with a wonderful group called Faith Builders, and we do a lot of stuff with Faith Builders. We do block parties with Faith Builders, and they also have a worship service downtown on a Tuesday evening that we participate with Faith
Where do
Builders.
they have that?
At the Main Street Church.
Oh, the Main Street Church.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's one of the things about the United Methodist Church also, is that she's opened up her doors for other denominations, and you'll see that quite often. So that's
would
just
it
some.
be fair for me to say that you plan additional programs, or do you think you're pretty stretched right now?
Oh, brother, I'm always thinking out. I mean, I'm always visioning out here. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'd love to. My dream right now is to have a coffee shop at the basement of the Main Street, down the basement at the church. It looks like the catacombs. It's the most amazing structural, historical place, and I just see coffee shop that's being housed by people in the neighborhood are the ones who are working it, and we're able to share the love of Christ around a cup of coffee in a coffee shop. We also have a warming center and a cooling center every week down at Main Street, where it's just one-on-one. You can come in and get a cup of coffee and get something to eat and talk to somebody who won't judge you.
I was smiling because we had a program at the University of Oxford for a long time, and I taught over there twice. And last time I was there, back in the mid-'90s, the largest Anglican church on the University of Oxford, 40-some-odd colleges, had just started doing a coffee shop in the catacomb-like basement of this beautiful
Just
old
as beautiful,
Anglican church.
It's very very Holy Spirit driven there. It's very different there at Main Street, especially the worship.
Do you work with other churches in a kind of cooperative fashion on any of these programs?
Some we've had different groups from different churches come in and provide the meals, which are downtown.
Okay.
At 12 noon on every Sunday. So some of that, we don't receive any kind of funding or that
Right.
kind of help, but we have had some people from other churches participate. Yes.
This is a Methodist question.
Okay.
Since you're the only Methodist pastor I'm talking to,
Okay.
is there much cooperation among the Methodist pastors in a town like Muncie?
Yeah, there are.
Like
yeah.
College Avenue, like
Yeah.
High Street?
Yeah, we're in fact, I'm in a cluster with
Okay.
College Avenue and
Okay.
some of there are colleagues, and so yeah, we know what's going on and pray for each other deeply. Yeah, we're very collegiate. We're very different
Yeah.
in lots of in theology even and in where we are, but when it comes to the kingdom work, we
Right.
come together. In fact, I've been in one for 3 hours before you came this morning with
Okay.
my Methodist.
Where
clergy.
does Union Chapel fit into this picture?
Well, Union Chapel is one of our largest
Yeah.
congregations,
Yeah,
okay, and things, and so as far as my picture, as far as
Well,
or
I
the
guess
Methodist
it's
church,
more you reflecting on, here is the church in Muncie where,
Right.
in interviewing the pastor,
Right.
he is openly proud and should be of the fact that they are the only church in this area that averages 1,000 in attendance on a weekend.
Sure,
That's great. And they do all kinds of programs, and they have for a long time.
sure.
But I just wonder what their formal connection is to the United Methodist
Yeah.
Church. I don't quite
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah.
They seem kind of independent.
Yeah, they're United Methodists.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah,
United
it says it
Methodist
on the
Church. Yeah,
signboard,
they're
yeah.
United Methodists, and they're part of our system and part of
Okay.
one of our colleagues, and that's But as far as we don't
Right.
actually do anything with Union
Okay.
Chapel, yeah. So they're not in we have clusters, and so
Yeah.
we have different clusters with them too, so.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that occurs in the United Methodist Church is much more regular movement of pastors from one church to another. Now, I know Greg Parrish has been out there for a very
Yeah,
long time.
he has, yeah.
And you've been here longer, some would say, than the normal tenure of a Methodist pastor. I mean, does that not operate in the way that it used to many years ago, where they'd move people every 4 or 5 years?
It's very different now.
It is
very
different.
different. Yes.
Okay.
There's a lot of conversation that happens with
Okay.
the pastor, with the church, what's good for the pastor, what's good for the church.
Right.
And also, we have much longer tenures. The church I served before, I was there 15 years.
Oh, okay.
So, but it used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it was every
Yeah.
3 years that
Yeah.
you were
I know.
being moved.
Yeah, it was like the Anglicans. That was the leftover Anglican
Right.
tradition.
So we're seeing longer tenures,
Okay.
which are healthy for the church and healthy for pastors and their families. So I raised my children at my previous church,
Right.
which was healthy. That's a good place.
This is an off-the-wall question, but I got to ask you anyway. How different is your husband's ministry in Daleville than what your ministry is here?
Right, yeah. It's the structure as far as numbers, okay, makes that a different kind of structure, where he's more in a family-sized church, okay, and I'm in a more program-sized church,
okay.
And so it's basically that, with staffing and those kinds of things, but it's still the same mission. They have a
Right.
different vision, but same mission.
Okay.
We all participate in the mission of the United Methodist Church to make
Okay.
disciples.
Is that an older congregation, the Daleville Church?
Not really.
I don't know
it's
much about it.
yeah, it's a combination of
Okay.
people.
One last question about the music, as I know you're very involved in that. One of the things that's happened to a lot of the mainline churches is they've gone to this, we have a praise service at such and such a time and a traditional service at such and such a time. And from my perspective in doing this research project, what happens to those churches is they end up with two congregations, where they have those who will go to the praise service and don't want to be caught dead at the traditional, and vice versa. I mean, do you think that's a danger of the mainline churches in the way they've approached trying to be more modern, if you will, and
Yeah.
offering two different types of services?
I don't think I've ever thought about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I have.
So it hasn't happened here?
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. I'd have to
Okay.
think about that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people who just come to the 11:15 service and wouldn't come to the 9 o'clock service. But
Right.
I don't see it as divisive. How about
Okay.
that?
Okay.
I don't see it as
Yeah, I don't think it's,
divisive.
well, it's not, I guess divisive, that's a kind of hard word.
Yes,
I mean,
it
the
is.
Presbyterians are
Yeah.
about 50-50 on who
Okay.
goes at 11 to traditional and
Yeah.
who goes to 8:30 at
Yeah.
contemporary. But it's
Yeah.
just in conversations with people there, when
Right.
they did that
Right.
15 years ago, for all the reasons that lots of mainline churches made that decision to go
Right.
to two different kinds of worship or approach to worship.
Right, right.
Now they've gotten to the point where people are so rock solid on going to one kind of service that they don't want to really go to the other
Right.
kind.
I can tell you the difference is, if you want to see a real difference, is at Main Street. It doesn't,
Okay.
see, when you're desperate for Jesus, you don't care about any of that.
Okay.
I mean, there's a whole different mentality as far as when you know who you are and who He is and what you need. I mean, it's just it's a whole different. So you're not asking the questions.
Right.
Do they sing the old work at cross
Yeah, right.
that
Yeah,
I
yeah,
need?
good.
You don't ask those questions. You're not asking the questions. Well, I really need contemporary. Before I can't worship God unless I have a contemporary. See, you don't ask those questions when you know who you are and what you need, and you know that the only reason that you even are alive is because of the power of the blood of Christ.
Yeah.
All you want is the opportunity to worship Him.
Right.
Now, that's.
Well,
That's
is
true.
the approach to worship at
That's
Main
true.
Street a praise service orientation?
It's Holy Spirit driven. It's completely
Okay.
different.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just going to say that. I mean, we rejoice. We have. I'm just going to be real.
Yeah.
I can say what I want to hear. I guess
Sure.
I say. We have a man who's homeless that pees on the pew every Sunday.
Okay.
We rejoice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I have people who come in drunk
Yeah.
on Sunday.
Or
We
high- or
rejoice.
high on drugs.
Or high.
Yeah.
And I have millionaires that come in and sit
Yeah.
together. So, I mean, to me, it's like, oh my gosh, that's church. How did we miss it? So it's this kind of Holy Spirit kind of, and it's like instead of bodies or age, it's souls, and I really mean that. It's not an age it's like we're souls, and we just all need Him, and there's not a judgment, and we have people from all different walks, all different political places, all different gender. I mean, and it's just you become like this soul. It's beautiful. How about that?
No, I agree with you. I think
It's beautiful.
A lot of inner city ministries, I think, are like
They are.
that.
We need to learn from them.
True. No, not in churches like yours or here or mine.
We could learn a lot. We could learn a lot.
I agree.
We could learn a lot.
Macro question, historical. Why do you think in the last several decades, nationally, that the mainline churches have lost so many members?
They lost their vision.
Okay.
They lost their vision.
Okay.
It's just simple. I mean, we try to make it, we have all these books. We've got all these studies and all this kinds of stuff, and you lost their vision and you lost the gospel.
Okay.
You lost your vision. And if we don't have that, then you're hearing your own voice.
Okay.
God he knows what He's doing. And
So
He's
it's
not
otherwise
stopped.
it's an echo chamber.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I can go through all of these things, it's because of, we don't join anything anymore,
Right.
and we have all these books of what happened and what happened to the millennials and what happened to this, what happened.
Right.
Well, this is what happened. They didn't see the power of Jesus in Grandpa anymore.
Okay.
They didn't see the power of Christ in Mama anymore, we lost. We lost our vision, we lost our power, and we became inward. And the church became a social club, and that's what we are. We come and our preferences. We're like Starbucks. We can go get our coffee, and somehow we believed that we were doing the gospel of Christ by continuing to sit right there for 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me
lost
switch it a little bit then. With this decline,
Yes, sir.
what do you think the appeal of the mega churches is? The churches that definitional are over 2,000 in membership. What is the appeal of that?
Okay, I'll tell you what someone said to me. Here's the, we're no longer in the book of Numbers. We're in the book of Acts, and the appeal and only time will tell us if it's genuine.
Okay.
Only time will tell us. Jesus wasn't against numbers.
All right.
He's just against counting the numbers as that is an indication of spiritual growth.
Right. Yeah.
So the appeal is that for some is that I can go and get filled and leave and nobody knows my name. Because we live in a society, a world that this isn't Cheers anymore.
Right.
I don't want you to know my name. I don't want to open up I don't want to sit on my porch anymore.
Yeah.
So I can go to church and you don't know my name. So I don't want to judge that because my gosh, we got enough lost people. But as far as what that offers, and are we seeing transformation?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, what struck me in going to some of these churches, especially in Florida, when we go down there where our daughter lives, is that even though they might have 5,000, 6,000 members, they have just an incredible number of ways to break down that number.
They do.
During the week.
They do.
So they have every affinity group within,
Right.
in this case, a Presbyterian context that you could possibly think of.
Exactly.
And I hadn't really thought about that. So, you might identify with this Tuesday night group and this Thursday night
Right.
group. And
Yes. And so then we'd say, well, is that about the numbers? Do we count the numbers in the groups?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just keep seeing after the feeding of the 5,000,
Yeah.
they were all gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
If we're, even Jesus couldn't keep a crowd.
Yeah. Right.
So why are we trying to keep? Jesus couldn't keep a crowd.
Yeah.
And the scriptures are clear. It's going to be this. It's narrow. The road's not wide. It's narrow. We'll be hated. You give your life away, you will die. I don't. So I'm not real sure about all of that.
Yeah.
I think that the question is, what did Jesus say to you this morning?
Yeah.
And that's the litmus test.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
That's the litmus test. Yeah.
This is a real switch, but
Okay.
This is Jim Connolly, our co-worker and the head of
Yeah.
the Center for Middletown Studies, is working on a research project focusing on this, so we decided to toss in this question.
Okay.
What role do you see for churches in cultivating what I'm calling a sense of citizenship? Do you think that
Wow.
it's important for churches to make people in their congregations aware of their responsibility as citizens?
Yes. Only if it's being used as a tool for the gospel.
Okay. Okay.
Just so that I can say that, and that was one of the huge movements, is to be a good citizen for the sake of being a good citizen, for the sake of being a part of one of these clubs and these kinds of, and we do good, what do? We do good things.
Right.
The church is not here to do good things. That's why we lost our mission. The church is here to share the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Okay.
And so that's why we have a whole congregations of good people. That's why I'm not desperate for Jesus.
No.
Because I'm good. Okay? So, yes, but it's for the purpose of it being a tool for
Well, you've
for
anticipated
Christ.
the next question, but I'll let you
Yeah.
comment anyway.
Okay.
The next question is,
Yeah,
do you see a connection
Yeah.
between faith and citizenship?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's a tool.
All right.
It's a tool.
So to be a good citizen, in
Mm-hmm.
your view, it would be important to be a person who understood the connection between his or her faith.
To be a good anything.
Okay. All right.
Wife, husband,
Yeah,
citizen,
okay. That's
lawyer,
fair.
professor, teacher, anything,
Yeah.
preacher, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all of these things are just tools that God wants us to use to share
Yeah.
the story.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, yeah.
Good place to end the formal questions.
Yeah.
At the end of these, I always
Okay.
give the people I'm speaking with an opportunity to add anything that you might like about this conversation, the church, faith communities in Muncie, just any
Yeah.
kind of final comments if you wish to.
I'm extremely hopeful and
Okay.
extremely thankful to be a part of this community.
Okay.
And extremely thankful to be a part of a movement of God. I believe that Muncie, Indiana, is on the verge of a revival. I believe
You should
that
go work for
I
the Ball
do.
State president. I mean, he thinks the same thing. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really. I don't know if you know this, but the mayor once a month has invited all clergy to
Yeah,
come,
yeah.
and we
Yeah,
have
yeah,
the
Dennis is a
prayer
good
thing.
guy,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we have this prayer, and and we're always. I really truly believe that God has His hand on this city. I do, and I feel, and I can. I mean, there are times when I just go. I'm from South. You know, where is Dolly Parton and Crack a Barrel, and
Yeah.
where's my little cabin and the whole stuff.
Yeah.
But I believe God's called me here for such
Yeah.
a time as this and a purpose. And I just can't imagine not being a part of so far what God has called me to be. What tomorrow brings, I don't know.
Yeah.
But right now, I know.
Did you come here before your husband went to Daleville? I mean, so you were here and then.
I was here first, yeah.
Where was he?
Yeah, he was my associate.
Oh, okay.
He served
Here?
as my associate. No,
Oh,
down
in Hanover.
In Hanover,
Oh,
right.
okay.
But we're from the South.
Yeah.
So this was a huge change for me to come. I mean, I grew up in country music. My sister's we sang country music is what we did.
Yeah, but that's what Muncie is.
You know,
Muncie's the
so-
South moved north. I mean, it really is.
Someone said, Reverend Vickie, you couldn't go any much further north from here. You know, it's very foreign for me. It's been a cultural change for me, very cultural. But I have found a very genuine community here and a loving community. And I've also found that we really are not as different as we think we are, especially in the church.
Yeah.
I don't think the more we, and I think that's what's so wonderful about this. This has been wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll just say that. Thank you for
I
this.
forgot to
Thank
ask this
you.
question. What's the average attendance here now on Sunday?
Right. We are averaging right around 300
Yeah, that's what I
here.
thought. Yeah.
3 here, so another 100. So we serve about, and with the dinners, we serve over 500 for a weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long ago was it when you talked about this 700-800?
Yeah, that was in
Congregation.
1961.
61?
1961.
Long time ago. Yeah.
1961.
Okay. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you
welcome.
very much.
Good,
Thank
good
you.
interview.
Thank you, sir.